Disclosure Set Video 3 of Series. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things. Greetings everybody, it's been a long time since I last released any new data on my discoveries. What I present to you today is a continuation and building upon that first data release, and subsequent videos using my current best description of the discoveries made. Ultimately you are the ones who decide what is, or is not of scientific value within the discoveries, methods, and observations I present to you. I suggest that if you are not of good health and fairly strong constitution, you should give consideration to not proceeding further. However, that said, we are at a time that we need to face many things we have delayed regardless, and just do our best to cope using existing methods. Some will however find what we are about to journey into exciting. By the end of this analysis, you may have concluded that we may have clear and comprehensive contact with the crop circle creators, which may be related to the Tic Tacs or orbs seen during their creation, and you may even conclude that these entities are assessing and evaluating our entire human status, as evident by their communications to us, where they cover subject matters such as the subjects we less want to face, are tired of, we have not yet foreseen, or are currently heavily censored. They seem to cover whatever is important, ignoring the media's social steering factors. You may also begin to see how other close encounter events may be a part of a single coordination over many matters. My current task is to describe and present the new data on a timeline and communicate possible meanings over the new data found, and this is my lead off to other upcoming discovery releases in this ongoing series. Much time has been spent enhancing problematic field images and tracing crop circles into graphically manipulable images, and learning the graphic programs needed, before any enhanced electronically aided crop circle deciphering could begin. I have decided once more to go with the electronic voice option, as the transcript is quite important to output accurately and is very complex in its exacting word choice and intended deeper consequences and meanings, and I just don't think my very average oration skills would suffice this time, guys. Things are about to get unprecedentedly interesting, so stay with me as we merge into groundbreaking new data, and major discoveries, straight from the source. Peoples powerless to change bad things inflicted upon them in a particular reality by their chosen government, who cannot turn around the situation, may instead, if it is within their means, opt to change the entire reality everything is based upon, which may eventually make completely redundant then improve, the ruling skill set necessary. What I today present may likely change many things. These changes have precedent in history, and can come about from a range of catalysts and chain reactions. It may seem a departure from the science and data to be talking about world issues, however in this one rare case, these issues are in a way a related part of the scientific materials and data we are about to discuss. Of relevance, ongoing censorships and closures of accounts used for special purposes are a direct assault on the very source and the records of scientific exploration being undertaken. How would any scientist or person conducting any personal study feel to, without explanation, have their research subject and years of data suddenly be removed or deleted without any redress or explanation? In my own case, for example, historical records and transcripts were lost forever. This is the current state of world madness, until those forcing these devolvements are held to account for damages done. I'm only one of many in this regard. A glance at the internet shows a very high representation of disapprovals of conduct by the current powers that be, which seem drunk on corruption and power and look to be subverting the world law systems to evade and manipulate justices, and arm the justice system as a weaponized system against those trying to defend themselves from the 1984-style things being inflicted upon them. We can all see clearly that a large, dangerous and corrupt hidden agenda is playing out, and a got-you-all moment seems imminent. We need more people actively enacting our laws and holding violators to account, to countermeasure what is occurring or be overrun and lose the battle to commercial and dogmatic powers entirely. The enormous legal pushback from a dedicated paid people's union and the billions that would be raked in, at cents per week from everybody, would end many problems overnight, so would the mere mention of it, particularly if anybody started to organize it. The bad treatment of peoples through history may likely have happened because we have not ever had a counterbalancing force to match the growing powers of the commercial industrial interests, and their massively powerful technologies. Those inflicting their commercially driven desires and wares on the people should perhaps realize citizen objections have thoroughly embedded themselves into the history books of our times for all in the future to see. This means that justice is imminent. Also, many of our best scientists are on record pointing out major diversions from logic and science in favor of insane commercial and dogmatic agendas. And yes, I do know about history mop-up crews, their longevity, and their methods. So too the weaponizations of social trends, diversionary tactics, and setting and inflaming divisions within homes to achieve goals, and many other such similar tools of war. Powers and influencers who try to force technology upon and control the public en masse, without the public individually volunteering, are heading for the inevitable cliff and major disruption event. It is of major entity focus. All world-changing factors must be on a voluntary availability only take-up of new sciences, devoid of the hidden massive psychological powers, to influence and steer directions, that may have been gained from secretive and often brutal experiments. Censoring, like in other similar times in history when similar dictatorships emerged, has gone to ridiculous levels in an attempt to own and control the narrative, knowledge base, and sciences. Let's now push things with more than an equal and opposing force in the other direction in response to those foolish attempts, that always have historically had a big pushback by the peoples. What I am witnessing in the world, the bad treatment of peoples, the powers that have and are about to become technologically available and are so brutally being inflicted upon the peoples, clearly against their wills, the trajectories things are taking, where indicators are pointing, the new UAP reports, have all accelerated my timing in coming forward today. Also, I presently believe that there may be many entities, desperately awaiting these discoveries to become public, as a necessary and awaited step in mankind's pathway to public contact. After all, somebody is making a huge effort to place before us a massive body of communications, that have so far gone unrecognized publicly for many years. You are about to perhaps hear of these things for the first time. With all that out of the way and stage set for future purposes, let's now begin the current discovery disseminations. First, one important point, and a little about myself. I'm not a linguist. I am a very busy, retired practical engineer, and carer, experienced in hands-on general design and manufacture, who years ago, in retirement had used the guidance of a specialist linguist after seeking and making discoveries from crop circles. Many responsibilities are present because of those discoveries. The discoveries have been placed into a format that can at the appropriate time and circumstance be made fully accessible as a resource for study, for those that want to learn how to use, document, explore, and improve our understandings of the discovered writing system, with knowledge that it may also be related to many sky phenomena such as orbs and tic-tacs and other varied objects and oddities to seek answers on a broad range of questions we have held for perhaps millennia. Phenomenological matters are a way of life for me, as in the real reality of life. As in, more real than the false reality generated by hiding key events, and discoveries from the masses. I do not intend to make the same historical errors made right through our scientific and UFO history, by not presenting my discoveries. My previous intensive studies included gravity and physics, and I also have a by necessity, interest in human behaviors. I am experienced in the many necessary skills attained while living on large acreages. My thinking style is independent associative, rather than a programmable linear memory style thinker, that finds doing well in exams at schools and universities easy. I have purposely focused less on some areas and more on others in order to specialize my thinking focus and thinking strengths in the areas I choose to achieve in. Now to briefly recap on key disseminations in videos 1 and 2, before beginning to go deeply into explanations of the linguistic discovery details. Previously in the first 2 releases I had asked what conditions may constitute having to declare that contact had occurred, and whether we should declare that it had occurred under the conditions listed. Here was listed some of the elements of the linguistic discovery, in one-line statements for each aspect. The videos covered some of the journey so far experienced, and how things may proceed. Under the video show more drop-down menu are many links, and clearer documents along with my contact links tree, and the global contact invitation and messages links document, where the latest important information is sometimes first posted. In this current release I have something potentially important to announce, that builds upon the videos made July 8, 2018 under the account name Data Derivations, where some of what had been discovered was first announced, and a key document named the What If document of findings was displayed. Let's resume that journey and that dissemination with an explanation of the discovered linguistic form, as the precursor, before then describing other new findings in future releases, and exploring new branches of the discovery tree. Late in 2017, while searching for the method to transform linguistic-looking messages from crop circles into coherent output, a large breakthrough was made. Now later in time, and looking back, Crop circles were the obvious medium of choice as we approached contact with an outside intelligence, and are such a rich medium, capable of encoding both pictures and data simultaneously, which we would expect to find utilized for an important initial series of exchanges between worlds. A picture can accurately describe meaning, where differences in languages may not directly translate, and intended meanings may get distorted with disastrous consequences in such an important and delicate event, such as first public contact. The heightened study of geometry and pictorial memes seems to also be awakening a lost set of realizations and mind skills within us. Crop circles are available as a resource for the entire public. Attempts to obscure them have generated high interest and focus. The linguistic format discovered is unique and has had to be described using whatever available terms for linguistics that were already established. However, not all existing terms describe the new writing elements well, as this encoded writing system is just so different and foreign to anything seen before. The word grapheme is commonly used as it is so flexible in its meaning, which is basically any base unit symbol of any meaning within a writing system. I may have to coin the new term flexene to more accurately describe the new form. It is intended to mean minimal to no stable properties other than the moment-to-moment intuitively detected meaning to describe the new grapheme-like form. This will later need fully officially defining in a longer explanation. The discovered linguistic writing system is difficult to describe and complex in its nature, which is probably why so many failed at uncovering the writing system in order to extract efficient, accurate, and consistent linguistic outputs. The output formats of the writing system can be compared to that which may be exchanged between military intelligence operatives sometimes, for example, and sometimes more like that of something from the Commandments or the Bible, but are very powerfully constructed and efficient in word choice and message delivery. Wide-reaching consequences can be often attributed to a simply and brilliantly written form. I have never seen words so powerfully used. It seems to be from a higher intellect that has a better, more comprehensive command of the English language than we see from many other examples of brilliant writings. I consider that the efficient linguistic form discovered may have come about from an intellect that uses telepathy as the main means of communication, as the writing system discovered seems to communicate in completed concepts, as the main means of efficiency. It is then that the recipient processes the deeper connected associated aspects of that which is being communicated. The written form can be perhaps best described as consisting of partially obfuscated graphemes hidden by deformations and orientations, where the individually shaped graphemes are individually tailored and positioned within a grid network that can be connected in series using pre-existing field tramlines and other individually tailored and varied means, creating a grapheme relationship between two or more intended strings of graphemes. The graphemes are usually recycled an unlimited number of times through a course of individually steered logics that outputs an assembled string into a coherent message output in English that is properly spelled, expressed, and punctuated. Message outputs are sometimes assisted by a nearby meme pictorial that indicates message subject matter, or a message theme clue. Grapheme size, orientation, shapes and distortions are all controlled in order to steer the body form outputs and or to give clues sometimes to output meaning, with deciphering best obtainable at an unspecified and maintained heightened level of intuition and cognition. Objects in the surrounding farm fields that are natural, such as tramlines and natural objects and shapes, have been observed to be crucial and necessary for message output guidances, and appear to have been included for the accuracy of encoding of the intended message output. This aspect can be summed up as the use of the natural settings, in which the crop circle appears, for a multitude of purposes, such as message output theme, as well as grapheme sequence guidances. Landscapes chosen for placing crop circles indicate great and detailed observance of a suitable setting, from a very high altitude, but also are seen to utilize or produce the very tiniest useful aspects, found within a chosen message body location, as well as the larger overall field pareidolia available. One thought, it's as if message format or writing system technology and the real world are being blended to be closer together to each other on a trajectory with a future destination and melding point. The output messages usually are messages of high importance and are many times related to important matters we are currently experiencing and often see in nationally and internationally reported news services, but are also messages that are important, and rarely mentioned on the news cycles, not mentioned at all in news cycles, or are warnings intended to head off a foreseen problem to humanity using vast insights using unknown technologies, and often are not limited by calendarical limitations. We as humans normally are restricted by. Sometimes grapheme linking is controlled by a lead leg or arm signature on a particular grapheme, which helps deliver grapheme flow direction logics. The language format learning is continually evolving from its discovered simple form by means of unique and purposeful precedents that appear well designed and placed at a section of the output where no error or doubt can be attributed. This means that the linguistic form has self-teaching ability built in. The main driver for coherent output seems to be moment-to-moment human intuition and logic. The complexity level for message construction seems to be in the range of AI, or a very large human-like, but likely non-human intellect, or possibly humans of our future that have amassed higher intellect or learnings. Condensing of messages relies on intellect or AI power rather than actual I/O spaces we utilize on computer hard drive volumes, for instance. No limits to numbers of outputs have been glimpsed within the current 4-year extraction period, and a single large crop circle may contain over 3.125 million glyph combinations, or perhaps more dependent on available computing power to calculate combinations, in each crop circle vessel. These estimations are however impossible to have complete accuracy on within a growing and evolving body of knowledge. These numbers equate to a possible output volume of more words than is found in the Christian Bible per large crop circle, for example. We therefore can equate this new written form as approximating the characteristics of a modern hard drive or similar data holding vessel. Even tiny linguistic crop circles that contain sparse numbers of base elements in turn are leveraged to much higher output capacities. The word grapheme best describes linguistic elements, as the form includes complex mathematical symbols, mathematical equations, possibly chemical symbols, and electronic componentry as some of the examples glimpsed so far. Sometimes linguistic crop circles are not immediately apparent as such. Importantly, the linguistic method can be applied internationally. As the linguistic form can be applied internationally, then we are likely facing a worldwide coordinated contact effort. The message bodies have been found to be self-teaching from a very simplistic form, and then have increased understanding about the writing system using learning precedents, and have a ramping up hierarchy of volume and complexity increases through time. The writing system precedents are observed as consistent internationally, they are therefore not a local uncoordinated coincidence or planned by fakers as a one-off, and are not then even part of a locally coordinated small-budget effort. Also importantly, deciphering the message outputs is limited by the experience and knowledge of the person deciphering the messages, because a person without prior learning and knowledge cannot spot chemical or mathematical symbology and meaning, for example, without first having the ability to glimpse and assemble these complex linguistic forms. Said another way, without a good level of prior knowledge, the messages are locked safely away. This may be described perhaps as an intelligence mirror, where the more IQ and qualifications used to look into the message body, the more it may output. This perhaps then could be seen as a measurement test in a handshake event. So far regards these particular unfamiliar scientific discipline categories, only basic sentence strings have been attempted so far, along with some basic formulaic type matter limited by the decoder's abilities and knowledge base. The forwarding of new knowledge sometimes happens within a known bookend set of parameters in small segments, which may be to prevent overwhelm and stay within familiar but ever-changing parameters. Amongst what has so far been deciphered is a collection of what appears to be interspecies handshake material. Regards the broader picture, the overall indication is that what appears to have been found nestled within the full scope of these communications is at a minimum, the quintessential contact movie set of elements, plus many extra elements present than usually portrayed in movies, with the notable absence of the fear and doom factors usually present. We seem to be in new territory. And yes folks, the name Eisenhower does come up as a key factor in message outputs. This time perhaps, this discovery seems to have outdone Hollywood's imaginative capabilities, regards the reality of the range of subject matters covered, and the volume potentials and complexity of layered informations found, as well as the ability to cause major ongoing changes from the discovered and evolving writing system and the deciphered outputs. I note that I do not want to underwrite or underexpress the excitement of the potential meanings to all of these discoveries, as it is a very exciting series of ongoing discoveries, and I think we can all see where this appears to be going. The main handshake material found seems designed for the American presidency, and seems to outline the conditions and signals to be given for a public contact readiness prior to some kind of possible contact event, or prequel event, which I conclude may be then observed by the encoders of the messages for considered action. Any positive response may depend on a series of world systemic and justice corrections. Obviously, from our perspective, this would be on faith alone that all of our linguistic form outputs are complete and in the output order intended by the message inscribers. There are other differing possible contact interaction requests under study. As orbs and or maybe, tic-tacs are often filmed making the crop circles, analyzing this material thoroughly seems to be the next logical step in our pursuits to try to explain the broader phenomenon observed, and seek answers perhaps from the visitors themselves personally, on the many questions we have accumulated over the decades. Smaller orbs may be the larger tic-tacs drones. Perhaps if contact can be made using the entity's own invitation, we may get many other questions answered that we had previously tried to solve using our own logic and observations. I see no reason to waste vast amounts of energy and time on other pursuits such as back engineering downed craft, without also giving some continuing exploration to this new avenue where we might find even more answers than have already been supplied and deciphered in my pursuits so far. I have now briefly touched upon some of what has been discovered over the last 4 years of high-intensity work in a part-time exploration, since discovery of the linguistic form, back in late December 2017, and have needed to wait until a certain number of basics had been covered which were prudent in any such discovery. There appears to be a separate guiding transcript found pertaining to actions over these linguistics, and the proper handling of them that was deciphered from binary type code, taken from a close encounter event which occurred in Georgia on June 29, 2015. This will need further analysis and opinion from the scientific, phenomenological, or xenological community as to its proper relevance. There are also possible connections of relevance to the Southern Britain TV event, recorded by Colin Andrews, and also the Rendlesham event. It now seems possible many seemingly random close encounters actually had a purpose after all. I have communicated with one of the individuals involved, and request you all to please respect the privacy of this active military service member, and the others with whom my discoveries connect. There will likely be other connections made over time to other close encounters and other strange events, as linguistic messages unfold. Since other world indicators suggest we are very close to some kind of contact apex, as a worst-case scenario, perhaps in pursuit to answers on this particular series of discoveries, we can use it as a 101 practice scenario for the real thing. We in fact gain either way things turn out, as one way we get the practice for a certain to be not far off event, and in the other scenario we make public contact via the information provided to us. It's a win-win scenario used this way. All indicators so far show that whoever has inscribed these linguistic messages into the crop circles in vast volumes, appears to be very caring and friendly toward us, and in the scenario where we have multiple variants of intelligences assessing us, these ones in which a long history of friendliness shown seem to be a good choice for first contact, and have seemingly also provided material and invitation to do so. Reaching out to a more advanced species without some kind of protocol forwarded, seems a less logical thing to do and perhaps less safe. Who we choose to make first public contact with is critical, as it sets the way forward for all time. I suggest the public contact event transcends any military or secret contact event in legitimacy and legality, and in any contractual regard, as the public are the prime and paying drivers for all legal directions taken regards future directions for humanity. Perhaps this is one reason, public contact seems to be stubbornly taking its time, perhaps older contracts and circumstances are favored. I'm glad in light of the 2017 crop circle linguistic discovery now being further announced and explained, that we are taking the whole contact and UFO subject much more seriously. We seem to have all that is necessary now to let the message inscribers take contact all the way forward, depending on scientific analysis of the facts. Under further analysis we may yet find much more, as is already glimpsed. The volume density and multiply layered sets of information tightly packaged in each message body volume, certainly matches expectations of being contacted by an advanced race. Something of this linguistic nature may have been predicted as a logical next step in a ramping up toward contact as we also see increased sky activities. Importantly, this new linguistic, non-photographic proof aspect, steps around the problems we face regards modern photography and photo manipulations of unknown flying objects as proofs for acknowledging that something of large importance is going on. However, I must mention that as of my recent long labors and research, I can now show some good examples of photo camera manipulations that may have occurred in real time, and that perhaps are at pixel level, that may or may not occur on the camera or on the subject matter. This needs more analysis. This is however a deeper and additional layer of observation, not a subtraction from the findings so far. Perhaps when or if these discoveries come out in more acknowledged form we will discover whether our private sector, signals intelligences, military and or governments have already also discovered this new communications medium with the entities or whoever encodes them. If so, comparing notes may be fruitful. It may be interesting for us to analyze what messages some other group may have, that they have then potentially taken seriously and also enacted changes to society because of the messages received. We have a lot of analysis work to do. As evident by linguistic message output reveals though, the age of closed doors and secret UFO programs and other programs and agendas seem well and truly likely and logical to now be ended. It seems our message inscribers are perhaps not very happy with many secrets held back from the very people who paid for them, and have simply stated very skillfully in a respectful way, and least damaging way to warranted secrets, many truths otherwise not previously known. We have to consider while we are dragging our feet, these visitors are expending huge efforts and energies daily to maintain a non-contact proceeding status. So too are we expending during this standoff and about to expend even more pursuing answers. Using this medium discovered seems to be an efficient use of some resources for both groups seeking contact and answers, that may save us from taking a much longer road with a bigger expenditure. This standoff currently endangers all air traffic worldwide, while this body of works awaits study and awaits the outcomes it is programmed by our visitors to deliver. We may like to acknowledge that these entities may have enacted contact with other worlds or dimensions many times, and are probably very experienced at doing so and know what key societal changes are necessary. Just prior to a contact event, I think we should consider trusting them here, and contact matters can only proceed and conclude under their playout, not ours, as we are the ones being visited by a more technologically capable intelligence of some kind. As evident here and from other factors, they appear to be assessing us at great penetrations and depths, and have reacted as per the messages I hold vaulted for an appropriate audience and time. They appear to know all things in this world intimately well. They also seem well aware of the major subversion and underminings to our law systems and who are responsible for them, and seem to have identified these people as part of the secret holders and therefore the target obstacle between here and contact. My commiserations to the world for having your natural history denied as it played out, and to be now having to catch up in a potentially frightening leap, rather than being slowly acclimatized naturally through time. I have known many of these messages from our unknown interacting intellectual observers, for many years now, and note that the messages that they send us seem to gently steer us and guide us as a more wise person may gently try to steer a less wiser one. I think that this may be for our benefit, from a more powerful set of experienced oversights. Some of the reasons for the obscurity of the messages and UFO interactions I consider as known from data and logic. This will maybe become clear on its own terms automatically if I am correct, and probably shouldn't be tampered with, except by those already hard at work changing the situation currently. What I do expect is to see major change worldwide in view of these facts, because people everywhere will be able to read these newspapers of the fields that have penetrating vision soon, and also read the messages that make our hidden world affairs more transparent to them, ending an era of secrecy, by obtaining the same sort of access I have had for many years already. We are not referring to what goes on in bedrooms across the lands here, folks. Mankind has no control of whether a crop circle appears or not. And as I faintly remember somebody recently wrote, game over. Having said that, there are messages that are far too sensitive to publicly disclose presently, and it appears that there are no boundaries whatsoever for the eyes of our observers to see through and comment on. These messages cover a very broad range of the most critical subject matters. People like Mr. Michael Schratt, for instance, may be very interested in what is reported in the FYI message outputs section, obviously directed at our world militaries and citizens simultaneously. So too every person of nearly every major and important phenomenological research topic may find something of very high interest. I suppose this makes me the most informed and read-in person on Earth. Probably read in by the strangest means ever as well, I will grant you. For these reasons, I think we should see some much more major releases in future regular government disclosures, and I think it was on the way anyhow. I may wait for the American lead on some things, but we'll be expecting to see some major and rapid moves very soon. I have signaled loudly since late 2017 that these world-changing matters were on the way. I do not think the powerful and penetrating eyes of the many agencies would have missed my many deafening mountaintop announcements that were posted often inches away from their presences. So I expect they already know that I may be presenting these findings. I am not here to damage national secrets that hold the world safe and in balance currently, so things will not be taking this pathway, but am rather guided by the close encounter script, subtle hints and deciphered linguistic transcripts uncovered, and are using them to guide my actions and the timings of them, as well as my own common sense, as I observe news events worldwide. Interestingly, the close encounter script, being scrutinized for guiding actions over the linguistic script, likely told of the coming virus as one of the factors which I have now marked off, as our current position on the time ladder provided. I think I have endured some freedoms from oversight and got this far, because I used pencil sketches and original works as a basis to launch from. These are never taken as seriously as polished works, but to serious researchers and scientists the data is what is important, not the infotainment element that polished works present. I have often written in its many available forms to all major phenomenological researchers since late 2017, some several times, and tailored each writing to them in a personalized approach. It is strange there has been little to no response from many. I then took to live feeds as I was deciphering in the background, to give hint as to the disclosures approaching, to the complete bewilderment and amusement sometimes of the panels, patrons, and hosts, who probably didn't know what to make of the strange things being hinted at. I hope this release puts things better in perspective for everybody regards what has been going on behind the scenes, but it is just the start and a small glimpse of what is to come. Some of the people I originally wrote to have now passed. My own Australian government has recently put out a statement declaring little to no interest in these phenomena. Link follows here. Perhaps not knowing we were potentially about to play more of a role in helping solve the UFO airspace security matters, and perhaps also be important in helping facilitate the public contact process, with Australia being home of the sole custodian of the contact protocol materials. I thought this was a hasty approach by the Australian government, for them to verbally relinquish lead roles to other countries on this subject, and related subjects, but I am very pleased to be left in peace to roll out this worldwide, potentially world-changing series of discoveries without intrusions, while observing the major changes to the worldwide consciousness, as I soon bring forward actual data on many new discoveries of similar or greater impact to that described above. It seems likely that I may be more in touch, informed and practiced on these issues, than many official bodies in Australia, going by their own news articles that is, and the low level of knowledge they are perhaps purposely projecting to our citizens. Or is that just an act? In any case, my doors are open for those of proper rank and reason who may feel it important to now contact me. As previously mentioned in 2018, there are no portals for a citizen to be able to properly report or make alert to any kind of phenomenon to a person with an experienced ear anyhow, as the UFO phenomenon still has not been properly officially recognized and the internet portals have not been created or adapted for purpose, at least here in Australia. So too were universities not interested in any of what is discussed here, even in multiple attempts to begin a conversation. The reality is, however, and what has been glimpsed for analysis, is a highly condensed, vast and powerful spectrum of data that I expect will take decades to fully analyze. However, if we decide to meet the conditions set and enact the contact protocols, we may get answers much sooner. I think, considering all of the trouble we have gotten ourselves into, and the damages being done to individuals by government participation with megalomaniacs and the polluting and reaping of the planet, making contact may be the wiser choice for the people. There exists a submission of findings paper on the linguistic discovery, that was formulated with the help of the specialist skeptical linguist that consists of the original sketches, descriptive data, and some basic tests, that were made before I had any idea this would ever need to go public. Whilst energetically spinning wheels take time to get traction, they do eventually make good contact with the road. I think it is also important to mention with a very big wink that the current virus situation has also accelerated my coming forward at this time, and I think I will only be one of hundreds of people now rushing forward to present such materials as told here, because people like myself cannot take the chance that the virus may prevent us from self-presenting our findings. Perhaps many scientists and people of discovery will also want to now accelerate their releases and build upon what I have reported on here. Perhaps the now possible resultant major shift in consciousness and direction will cascade to overtake certain current directions and present new and better frontiers to mankind. Since messages have already been received on the issue, we may get help with the virus problems after contact is made, or even after this release, as they often know and react to such prompts with a new crop circle message body, or personal hint. An important aspect for this disclosure package, it is quite apparent by the volume quantity of messages glimpsed, type of content of messages deciphered, types of skilled disciplines needed, and sophistication of linguistic structure and other factors, that these message communication bodies were not designed for an individual to decipher, but an entire team of learned skilled peoples. Probably best done with an international type effort. There are also medical subjects commented on that should perhaps be analyzed. I will, however, endeavor to keep control of all aspects of these series of discoveries for the people, as it is clear that open disclosures of progress being made have been strongly intended by the message inscribers, and their mission seems to be to have more revealed, and much less kept hidden away from the people as this moves forward. I think the biggest shocks though will come, when it is realized that many new frontiers mentioned here are actually slightly understated and the resultant consequences are just beginning to gain in intensity. Never underestimate any such central event to catalyze major cascading worldwide changes. But if phenomenological researchers do not soon take up a late interest in these discoveries, they are very sure to soon become enforced as secret, as can be glimpsed by the importance of what is described here, and researchers will then, after having on historical record a so far 4 years long lost opportunity, subsequently also lose all access to what may be their dream materials. There is unlikely to be anything like this linguistic event ever again in citizens' own hands. Therefore I conclude this is our current best and maybe last chance, and most powerful catalyst for change available to act upon. I am bracing for the inevitable inquiries that can accompany a large release, and those intrusions are probably never perfectly timed anyhow. I'm not available many hours of the day often though, so we shall see how things play out if this takes off. It would take a large support team to currently free up more of my time for decipher work, as I am still renovating, so there is not much flexibility there. In comparison, last release was seen by maybe only a few hundred at most and was also very revealing, so on the other hand, I would again not be surprised to get just a few hundred people of passing interest only this time also. Many people seem to have the need to be told by somebody else that has power over them whether or not a particular subject is interesting, or similarly whether a person should be liked or disliked, rather than be capable of discerning for themselves these factors. I was glad to see though that even though only a few viewed the first release, those that did view it, seem to have had the luck in timing to have seen some recent major inroads since. There have been a large number of points to cover in this release, so that other things can launch and start to be discussed, so I hope that I have not inadvertently missed something key, as this is a very complex subject matter. Future releases should now more rapidly occur, as most of the current series of stumbling blocks have now been overcome. I shall wait to measure reaction and tailor next release to that reaction, or lack thereto. Regards past contact attempts to researchers, unless a person acknowledges a first letter telling of a discovery, then there is actually nothing further to build upon or speak about further. We are many years behind where we could have been. Since I did not create the source data that I am analyzing, I cannot make a final decision for everybody, about whether the contact data here is any kind of false contact scenario. I cannot recall anything to support this, and at the same time there is much to indicate that this is indeed a genuine real contact exchange playing out. Ultimately you get to choose, so come with me on this journey and let's find out together. Essentially my role is basically a mere interpreter. As a kindness to those who may have faked crop circle creation or made false copyright claims, I mention here, the law will be able to ask you about the unreleased data within a crop circle you have made claim to, and when you cannot answer those encoding questions, you may have self-attributed guilt. It may be better to come clean before such time as this occurs in your own way. Also, as crop circle data ties them in as an internationally coordinated and linked phenomenon, you may not be able to prove your part in the international coordination of encoded and linked data soon. A few last things. I think it is clear that from today, we are within an entirely new reality that looks sure to take us forward into very new and exciting realms that may close many undesired chapters of the past and offer a fresh start. Please excuse my at times seemingly calm and casual approach to all of this, as I have had a long time to get used to this new reality, and am very comfortable with it, but still get excited at every little new aspect found, and of course as the bigger things continue to suddenly assemble into a clear part of the picture. On June 25, 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in America released a much-anticipated report on UFOs to Congress. An ongoing report expectation has been created, and I cannot withhold my own discoveries when they may relate, and may interweave with the phenomenon that they have under study, and are collecting information on. Although coming forward may greatly endanger me, if I were to renege on coming forward, I may inadvertently hold a key piece of the puzzle. Considering the bad history to people of discovery, world powers have not yet made an official announcement to guarantee the safety of anybody coming forward with the information that they have after all, requested, or at least expect to receive as a natural consequence to the UFO report to Congress. This safety issuance is now overdue. Caught between a rock and a hard place, I am coming forward at the earliest possible moment, as I think is a sensible move, and subsequently as sections of the new ongoing data and discoveries present and conclude. I hope others with connected and pertinent data within private spaces make a similar move and build upon what is presented here. I also hope now that since this information release presented here is now available within public spaces, that there is in turn now more available for release, regards things marked secret. A short note to experiencers, I am keeping an eye out for mention about your aspect, and I have been learning the lingo so that I can spot any messages on the subject, but I so far have little to report on. Hang in there, guys. I will try to help. Cattle mutilations, and Bigfoot, the same situation as immediately above. They could be an unrelated phenomenon. This concludes today's disclosure from the Unfolding Disclosure series. This linguistic discovery has enough data to change the world with its penetrating eyes properties and linguistic understandings and outputs, but I think has stopped just short of stepping over the line into being a concern to world leaders. Let's now witness how world leaders write the record book on these new challenges and potentials though. Powerful eyes are watching. 102. But just before I conclude for now. As a worldwide phenomenon, COSTS regards the international planning and coordination, cutting-edge scientific planning, obfuscation logistics, technological leap realities, monitoring of international affairs, general staff, and costs associated with accuracy of predictions many years ahead. Would attribute such an extraordinary phenomenon within the scope of the affordability of relatively few individuals or organizations on the planet, but also the reasoning to perform such obfuscations to a relatively low percentage of people, would make it difficult to warrant the ongoing effort and costs estimated versus an unknown benefit. These factors alone indicate something extraordinary is going on. We all need to begin this crop circle journey. Thank you for your interest and time. Copyright patents pending. Andrew W. Roper. Retired Practical Engineer. Gippsland, Victoria, Australia. Since this is probably an historical descriptor of important findings, I thank the following people who have unknowingly played key roles in keeping me in touch with the broad aspects within phenomenology daily, allowing myself to go on performing key works deciphering while being able to listen to the latest data and analysis while I work, and sometimes chime in cheekily on the live feeds with some hints of what is coming. I thank all those who replied or asked questions to both my brief and extensive communications. I thank Dr. Horace Drew, for the many years of effort on crop circle deciphering, binary data, and deep crop circle data analysis in real time. Tammy, CJ, Marcus, Shannon, Rendlesham Experiencers, Colin Andrews, my Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, and other similar platforms where I have patrons and friends. My time-independent friends and researchers. Dave Scott, John Hudson, and the full crew of Spaced Out Radio panelists, guests and live feed participants. Ross Coulthart, James Rigney. In memory of conversation with Paul Hellier. Crop Circle Center. Crop Circle Connector. Those that braved contact with presidents early on and may have set this all in motion. The good elements within private interests, world agencies, and governments. The universe for providing such an amazing journey. All of the crop circle filmers and filmmakers, analysts, photographers, pilots, ground crews, websites, publicists, event makers, and audiences. Richard Dolan, Tracy, and guests. Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, and guests. Christina Gomez and guests. UFO Jane and guests. Dr. Stephen Greer, crew, and guests. Third Phase of Moon and Apollo's Odyssey. Thomas Fessler and team. The Unidentified Celebrity Review, patrons, guests. Laura Eisenhower. J. Project Unity, guests, patrons. Grant Cameron. Alien Scientist and all panelists and guests. James Gilliland. Avi Loeb. Lou Elizondo. The full effort made, hosts, panelists and guests at Coast to Coast AM Radio. David Wilcock team and guests. Praveen Mohan. Theories of Everything with Kurt J. Mungle. UFO Garage. Michael Sala, team, and contributors. The Black Vault, John Greenewald. Bruce Fenton, The Fenton Spectrum. The Alera of Sirius Channel 1 Futon 5D with Alera and Foil, guests, and audience. And all other helpful accounts, channels, and researchers contributing and working hard, often unpaid, to reclaim our true world reality, true origins, and rediscover the journey we made. Apologies to my partner and family, who have little clue to any of this, and would probably list my main role as yard worker or home renovator or something similar. I thank the following softwares: Thunderbird, Proton Mail, Balabuka, Inkscape, GIMP, Shotcut, Flashback, PDF Creator, VLC, and too many others to mention here for now. So to conclude, in similar style to Star Trek, as Captain Kirk may say, take us all forward, researchers and contributors. Take us out there, somewhere please. Cheers until next time everybody, Andrew. 11:11 a.m. November 11th, 2021.